On the one hand, it's clear, I don't think anyone disagrees what happened on the January the 6th was awful. There's disagreement as to whether or not the former president was directly involved in orchestrating it.
Yeah, it's a great point, Tom. It's nice to be here in spite of the delicate topic. And I'll agree with your first point that nobody's endorsed January 6th with any positive spin. I mean, that's clear, and there's no disagreement about that. So the congressional investigation didn't really tell us anything we didn't know already. I mean, I think it's more of an attempt by the Democrats to change the narrative of the midterms and try to attach the party to the mistakes that President Trump made on January 6th. And there were mistakes made. There's no doubt about that. But the congressional committee, it was, completely partisan, first of all. And it's sort of an indicator of the difficult times that we live in, especially in the U.S., with the polarization and the lack of unity. And all these things have become completely partisan. I don't think that it's going to work the way the Democrats are hoping it will, which is, again, changing the narrative about the midterms because of the poor polling of the president and generally speaking, the Democrats are looking at a really difficult midterm. So, I don't think it'll work, though.
Here's my slight concern with what's gone on. There seems to be this push that Donald Trump was orchestrating what went on. And to my mind, as someone who would have voted for the other guy, I think to some extent that gives him too much credit. To my mind, there's an argument as to whether or not he encouraged what went on. Right. But orchestrated makes it sound like this is a master planner.
Exactly. Tom, it's a great point. I mean, if whoever was designing this, as insurrections go, this was a complete and utter disaster. I mean, I'm sorry to chuckle about it, but, these people were oddballs dressed in Davy Crockett outfits or Viking outfits and roaming around the Capitol like tourists. I mean, yes, there was violence. It was horrible, but these were not armed insurrectionists. And
they were armed, though, Greg Swenson, several of them were armed. Yeah. People did get hurt.
Okay, yes, I don't deny that at all. But in just a little perspective and a little context, what was left out of the congressional hearing quite deliberately was any reference to the fact that President Trump on January 3rd and January 4th actually requested 20,000 National Guard troops to come to the Capitol because there was internet chatter amongst these radical, groups on the internet that there was going to be some kind of trouble or some attempted, insurrection or whatever you want to call it. So he asked for the 20,000 troops. Unfortunately, the mayor of Washington, D.C., and Muriel Bowser and Speaker Pelosi denied that request. And so I'm not sure you could, I'm agreeing with you that you can't really accuse the president of orchestrating this thing when he, in fact, was the one requesting National Guard support.
And yet he took hours. And yet, Greg Swenson, he took hours to call them off. He could have, and these people worship him as some sort of god king in certain cases. He could have told them to stop, and he didn't.
Tom, there's no doubt that was a huge mistake. But what I'm saying is the congressional committee kept harping on that, and perhaps, for good reason. But they left out some really critical information about the president trying to prepare the Capitol. And that's up to Mrs. Pelosi. That's not up to the president. He requested it, and that is proven that he did by witnesses. And they failed to act. So, I mean, look, we never want this to happen again. And the critical purpose of this committee should have been to, yes, investigate it, but again, not telling us something we don't already know, but make sure that it never happens again. And that's not the way they're thinking. They're using this as an opportunity to win votes in November. It will be a failure. I mean, you saw the New York Times came out, which is basically an advocacy paper now for, based on funny listening to your prior conversation. But, the New York Times has become basically the communications arm of the Democratic Party. They said on the headline, January 6th hearings give Democrats a chance to recast midterm message. Will that be successful? I doubt it. They curiously left out any information about the summer of 2020 riots where there was actual killings of police officers and billions in destruction.